Hello, pre-algebra students. This is Chapter 8.1, Relations and Functions. In previous chapters, we've learned to graph ordered pairs. Now we're going to learn to use graphs to represent relations and functions. Let's get started. This table shows the ages and lengths of 5 alligators. The first line gives the age in years, which we'll call X. The second line gives the length of the alligator in inches, and we're going to call these variables Y. We can represent the relationship between the age and the length using the ordered pair X, Y. The 5 ordered pairs that would be created by our chart would be these. The ordered pairs form what we're going to call a relation. A relation is a pairing of numbers in one set, which we'll call a domain, with numbers in another set, called the range. Each number in the domain is an input, and each number in the range is an output. For a relation represented by ordered pairs, the inputs are the x-coordinates, and the outputs are the y-coordinates. So to talk you through this chart using that language, the relation is the pairing of our age and our length. The domain is age. This first alligator is 2 years old, so we input 2. Our output, or our range, is the length. So the output is 32 inches. This alligator is 2 years old and 32 inches long. Input 2, output 32. One more time with the other terminology. The domain is age, and the length is range. Domain, range, input, output, X, Y. Okay? Here are 2 checkpoint problems for you. In each problem, identify the domain and the range in each of the given relations. So just a reminder, the domain of the relation is the set of all inputs, or x-coordinates. The range is the set of all outputs, or y-coordinates. So for each problem, list all of the domains and all of the ranges in the relation. Press pause while you work, and come back when you're ready. In addition to using ordered pairs or a table to represent a relation, we can also use 2 different visual representations. We can use a graph, or we can use a mapping diagram. Let's begin with our ordered pairs on the coordinate plane, or a graph technique. Here's our coordinate plane. Let's go ahead and graph our ordered pairs. Ordered pair 1 is -1, 1. So we'll go to the -1x, 1y, and our first spot goes right here. Okay, we'll label it as -1, 1. Our next is at 2, 0, which is right here. Next we have 3, 1, which goes right here. Then we have 3, 2, directly above. And finally, we have 4, 5. Okay. We have just visually represented our relation as a graph by plotting the ordered pairs on a coordinate plane. Now let's look at making a mapping diagram. In a mapping diagram, we'll draw 2 ovals, one labeled input, the other labeled output. First, we'll list the inputs in order. So from least to greatest value, that will be -1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we list our outputs from least to greatest value. Let's see, that'll be 0, 1, 2, and 5. The last step is to draw arrows from the inputs to their outputs. So -1, 1, 2, 0, 3, 1, 3, 2, and 4, 5. This is a mapping diagram. A function is a subset of relations. A relation is a function if for each input there is exactly one output. In that case, the output is a function of the input. Let's work through an example to clarify this definition. Is the very first example that we worked through, which consisted of the ordered pairs, age, and length for 5 different alligators, a function? Well, let's evaluate and find out. For each input, there can be only a single output if our relation is a function. Okay, so let's check. For 2, there is a single output, 32. For 4, there's a single output, 59. But for 5, there are 2 possible outputs. So this is not a function. It is a relation, but it is not a function. Let's look at another example. In this chart, we have a relation that shows the age and length of one alligator at different times. Is this a function? Yes, it is, because each input is paired with a single output, exactly one output. This makes sense, as a single alligator can only have one length at any given point in time. Try these 2 checkpoint problems on your own. Represent the relation as a graph and as a mapping diagram for each example. Then tell whether the relation is a function. Explain your reasoning. Press pause while you work. We have one final concept to learn before you're ready to move on to the exercises. Our last idea for Chapter 8.1 is the vertical line test. When you represent a relation on a graph, you can use something called the vertical line test to tell whether that relation is a function. The vertical line test says that if you can find a vertical line passing through more than one point on the graph, then the relation cannot be a function. If you cannot place a vertical line on the graph that passes through more than one point, the relation is a function. I'm going to plot 5 ordered pairs on this graph. And then we're going to use the vertical line test to determine if our representation is of a function or a relation that is not a function. So our first point is 0, 3. Our second point is -4, -2. Our third point is -1, -2. Our fourth point is 2, -2. And our final point is 3, 3. All right. So I'm going to use the vertical line test by drawing a vertical line through each point. And this passes. This is a function. None of my vertical lines go through more than one point. So this relation is a function. Let's work through another. I'm going to graph another 5 points, and then we'll use the vertical line test to determine if the relation is a function. My first point is -3, 4. And that goes right here. My second point is -2, 0. My next point is -1, -2. My fourth point is 3, 1. And my final point is 3, -2. Okay, let's draw our vertical lines. That one's clear. That one's clear. That one's clear. Uh-oh, that one is not. There are 2 points that the vertical line passes through. So this cannot be a function. Another quick way to test if a relation is a function is if you have any coordinate pairs with the same x coordinate, the same x input. Your relation will not be a function. Okay. All right, thanks for your hard work today learning about relations and functions. When I see you tomorrow, we'll work through some of the practice exercises in the text. See you then.